eligibility issue. So do you envision you would have students who might qualify 1 year for a voucher but not the next if their household income changes?
Yeah, I think that we've had that issue about, and currently there is, or used to be, an ed choice income issue when there was a restriction on it. There is no income eligibility at this point on the ed choice. So I think we have to, at one point there was a once in, always in kind of provision. I think we probably need, what we don't want to do is if someone qualifies under the income guidelines and then they hit the lottery, or even if fortunes turn better and the job finally comes through and now they're making well outside and they can afford to do this, we don't want that person to take the spot of someone who truly needs to do that. At the same time, we don't want to punish people for working harder. And if someone goes outside of the guidelines by a few $100s, is it going to cost them perhaps a couple $1,000s for that? So probably what we need to do as we define this language is to have some sort of if you qualify at some point, your income is high enough, you no longer qualify. And I don't have the details of that. I want to try to see what other folks may be comfortable. Can I just let her finish?
Yeah, this is just kind of separate. Did you say that the scholarships would be based on the state per pupil aid for the district up to $4,500 would be the maximum?
Yeah, and that would be in these right. What we call low wealth districts, because many of the low wealth districts have per pupil far in excess of that. This one in particular, $6,300. A lot of them are $7,000 or $8,000.
So either the cost of tuition up to $4,500
in this particular instance, but in this instance, it'd be only $3,500 in
no
this
more
instance.
Than the per pupil.
Yeah, and again, depending on where the tuition is, the private school, K through 8, of course, are typically a lot less than high school.
Could you give us a more firm example that we can report for what that number 4 income level is? You say it's 3 times the official poverty level.
Right.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the last time I looked at a family of 4, the income level was about $22,000. Multiplied by 3, $66,000.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about? Or
that's roughly it. But I mean, there's families of 2, there's families of 3, etc. So, but yeah, the federal poverty rate for a family of 4 is about $22,000.
Okay. And you say this would be 3 times.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I guess I'm not giving you a number because it depends on what size family you have. I mean, you may have a mother and a child that's a family of 2. And I think that number is about $50,000 or something like that, or $52,000, something like that.
Are you planning these for a floor amendment, and do you have any time frame as far as when this will be brought up?
No is the answer to your second question, and no is the answer to your first question. No, I think that there's obviously 3 ways that we could do this. I don't think these are significant changes in this program. I don't think that it's appropriate to simply try to do this as a floor amendment to the bill. I think that I'm working with a couple folks on the other side of the aisle towards essentially restarting this process. So we may do this as a separate bill, and that's probably the most appropriate thing to do it, appropriate way to do it. The second thing is you've heard a variety of people say, I know Speaker Batchelder, Senator Lehner, and some folks, well, just about everybody in this room maybe has mentioned this to me at some point about the governor coming forth with some educational proposal with not necessarily this program, but elements of this kind of program. I don't know whether that's going to be February, April. I don't sit in on the governor's policy meetings. So I guess if it's more appropriate to have that as part of that package, that's fine. This isn't an issue of ownership. It's an issue, again, of trying to help folks who have additional school choice options. And not to get too far off track, We do have a pretty good set of school choice options in the state of Ohio. Certainly the most widely used is open enrollment. There are, I don't know how many kids open enroll into a different district, but I would certainly tens of thousands throughout the state. We of course have charter schools, we have homeschooling, we have 2 current scholarship programs, the Cleveland program, we have 4. We have the Cleveland program, we have Ed Choice, we have the autism program, and now the John Peterson scholarship program. We have post-secondary enrollment option for students who use that to get college credits. And I should hasten to add, under post-secondary enrollment option, that many of those kids are using those dollars to go to private and often religious schools for the use of the money, which comes from these same pockets of money up here also. So, didn't mean to get off the track, but I was trying to answer your question. Did I answer your question? Okay. I'm supposed to be repeating the question for people watching this. Yes, ma'am.
So there's a list of about 300 school boards who have come out against this. They're not going to support this plan. Is it your idea that, they basically won't get on board, or is this something that you think will be more palatable to school districts?
I think yes is the answer to both of your questions. I think it's more palatable. I think in general, this just doesn't necessarily mean that 300 school boards are going to say, this is great. One of the points, and it's why I've emphasized it a couple times in this press conference, is there are schools that are losing millions and millions of dollars every year in open enrollment. And there are varied reasons for that. But many school districts would be better off if those students actually, in some cases, they're not even physically leaving the district to go to school, but they would take a less expensive alternative under the PAC scholarship than what currently they are with open enrollment. And so I don't necessarily think that folks are going to embrace this. It's a different program. It's a school choice program like half a dozen or so other programs that I just enumerated. But, the point of programs like this is not necessarily to say we'll only do stuff if the local school district likes it. We're supposed to be providing as many options to parents and students as we can, and doing it at the cost of the taxpayers that's less, and that the least is the least. But, of course we want to make sure that education is appropriate. So, I think the import of your question also, I should say this, these changes were made to address the biggest issues or concerns that were brought to me in the last 6 months or so from public school districts. I can't address every concern they have. The only way to do that is say, forget it, we're not going to do anything. And but I think, again, the focus needs to be here on the parent and the child and their best opportunity.